Alright, so a friend asked me to show off the retro game collection because he's wanted to see how much it's grown since I made my last video back in 2008, so I figured, why not put it on YouTube to, show it off to whoever's interested. You got, 10-yard fight, this game, it sucks. It's a terrible football game, but I just bought it because at the time I think it was only like $1 and I was trying to expand my collection. 1942, Balloon Fight. Balloon Fight is a really good game, but it's basically just a knockoff of Joust. Bart versus the Space Mutants. This game is terrible. It's one of the worst games I've ever played. Let me see if I can move the light back so it looks a little clearer. Yeah, one of the worst games I've ever played. Batman, one of the best movie adaptation games I've ever played. Really hard, but I've managed to beat it. I feel pretty proud about this one, and I feel even more proud to say I've actually beaten Battletoads without a Game Genie and warps, or without any warps. So yeah, it was just a clean playthrough and managed to beat it. Bionic Commando, a Blaster Master. Burger Time, one of the last NES games I ever bought before I gave up collecting NES games back in 2013. Castlevania 1 and 2, I have the third one for the Wii Virtual Console. Clu Clu Land, a classic. Contra, I got really lucky with this one because it was like an old lady selling at the Swami, got it for like $4. Donkey Kong Jr., yada yada. Dragon Warrior, one of the worst RPGs I've ever played. I mean, it was a groundbreaker at the time, but now it's like, too much grinding, too much meat. DuckTales, woohoo. Good game, good music. Dr. Mario, good puzzle game. Earthbound, this game's a bootleg. This isn't a real game, it's just based off a ROM hack. Or not even a ROM hack, it was leaked onto the internet and somebody made it into a cartridge base. And I bought it a year before they released it on the Wii U Virtual Console, and I paid $40 for it. So, money down the drain. But nah, it's money down the drain. Yeah, I regret it. Empire Strikes Back, the NES. I have no idea why I bought this game. No idea. This was back in 2005. Excite Bike, really good game, classic. Man, this light stinks. Ghosts and Goblins, really hard, really impossible. I've never beaten it. Gradius, kinda hard, kind of impossible, never beat it. Gyromite, really tedious and annoying, because you have to use a robot, and the robot is slow as heck, noisy as heck. Yeah, I'm talking about you. I'm talking about you lazy, slow piece of poop, and you Peppa Pig, you suck too. Hogan's Alley, really good game. Ice Climbers, a classic, really good. Jaws, a game that gets a bad rap. It is a really bad game, but I've actually beaten this game. I kind of enjoyed it. It was like a guilty pleasure. You kind of just zone out and you just beat it. Jurassic Park. Only reason I have this game is because the music for level 1 is really good. Like, look it up. Jurassic Park NES level 1 music. One of the best video game tracks ever. The game itself is like super hard. The Game Boy version is a lot easier, and I've beaten that version. But the NES version is just ridiculous. Like, the Velociraptors move super fast, whereas in the Game Boy they kind of just move slowly. Karnov, I have no idea why I bought this game. I think I bought it because it was, yeah, $2. Look at that, $2. I just bought it because of that. Kid Icarus, really good game, one of my favorite NES games ever. Kirby's Adventure, one of the best NES games graphic-wise, because it was like one of the last. I think it came out like right before the system died. I'm not ashamed to say Little Mermaid on NES is really good, but I wonder why. Mach Rider, just bought this one because it was referenced in Super Smash Bros. Melee with music and trophies. A lot of the games I bought were actually motivated, to be hunted down because of Melee. Like Melee's trophies, music, history and stuff made me want to buy these games. Mario Brothers, the classic arcade game adapted to the NES. Good game. Mega Man 2 and 3, kind of a waste of money for these because I already had the Mega Man Anthology Collection when I bought these, and that Anthology Collection was like $20, came with all 8 games plus 2 arcade games, and these were, I think they were like $7 each. So it was kind of a waste of money, but it was cool to have the original versions, because it was back when I was collecting, so it was nice to have that. Metroid, Pinball, the Popeye. This arcade game is actually really good. Like, I love this game. Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, really hard. Q*bert, arcade stuff. Rad Racer, more arcade stuff. Rampage, a really terrible game, but I only bought this one because it came with the box and thought it would be good for the collection. Chippendale Rescue Rangers. Stinger, a game by Konami. It was a side-scrolling shoot 'em up, which also showed off overhead shoot 'em ups, the parts, and a friend gave it to me, you know, so I'll take care of this game forever. Alright, since it's pretty hard to navigate this part, I'm just gonna show off the labels. I mean, these games, you're gonna know which ones they are. It's Super Mario Bros. Duck Hunt, everyone's seen that. Super Mario Bros. 2, Super Mario Bros. 3, Terminator 2, this game sucks. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, this game sucks. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the arcade game, this game is super good. Like, me and my cousin, we wasted so much of our life trying to beat this game. It's really good. We got Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3, The Manhattan Project, Tetris, really fun version of the classic Russian puzzle game, but the Game Boy version is still the best. This one's good, it's the same thing, but you know, the lack of portable nature is like, they should have at least included a 2-player mode. Like, yeah, this is pretty much an obsolete version. Top Gun, one of the 2 games that came with the NES that I bought like years ago at a flea market. This game's terrible, and the other was Super Mario Bros. Duck Hunt, of course. Game came with everything, but Track and Field, Wild Gunman, what, you gotta use your hands? That's like a baby's toy. Probably my least favorite of the light gun games that I have, which is Duck Hunt and Hogan's Alley. It's pretty much just a reaction type game, no aiming really necessary, except for in Game C where it has a Hogan's Alley type game, but at that point I would just rather play Hogan's Alley. World Class Track and Me, well, what's different about this game is that you need the power pad, which I actually have somewhere, and for this game, it actually didn't cost me $8, it cost me like $3. For this game, you just have to basically tap those buttons with your feet. Like, it's like the beta Dance Dance Revolution, but for track stuff. And you know, I used to be a track and field athlete, so you know this game was right up my alley. Yoshi, one of the I never liked this game. This puzzle game is kind of lame. And finally, the last 2 games are Zelda 1 and Zelda 2. Zelda 2 gets, you know, a bad rap, but I think it's one of the best Zelda games. It's just, I don't know, it's just a fun game. So now we're on Super Nintendo. First off, Alien 3, one of the worst games I've ever played. Number 2, Alien vs. Predator, one of the worst beat-em-ups I've ever played. Batman Returns, one of the best beat-em-ups I've ever played. Made by Konami, of course, obviously, yeah, they always make the best. Activision, you suck. Battletoads and Battle Maniacs, one of the, most mediocre beat-em-ups I've ever played. It feels like it's trying to be the original Battletoads, but nah. Contra 3, one of the best shooters of all time. Cool Spot, one of the best licensed game I've ever played, based on that little 7-Up spot. Darius Twin, not my game, it's a friend's game, but this is one of the best shoot-em-ups ever, simply because of the music. Like, I don't care if the gameplay is mediocre, I don't care if the power-ups are mediocre, it's one of the best games I've ever played, period. I love it. Disney's Aladdin. I hear the Genesis version is better, but then I hear some people say that the, let's see if I can angle this better, that the Super Nintendo version is better, but, this is my friend's game, so I can't say I really have much experience playing it. Doom, one of the worst games I've ever played. The graphics are terrible, it lags, but it came with the Super Nintendo that I bought. Earthworm Jim, not that good. Play the Sega Genesis version. Earthworm Jim 2, really good game. Play the Super Nintendo version. Donkey Kong Country, one of the best games ever made. Donkey Kong Country 2, one of the most better games ever made. F-Zero, oh my god, the music in this one is amazing. The Super Game Boy, play your Game Boy games on a Super Nintendo, it's pretty tight. We got Killer Instinct, one of the best fighting games ever made. Mario Paint, an interesting little paint simulator that's extremely outdated considering that Photoshop is available, but if you ever manage to find this on the mouse, it's definitely worth checking out for the novelty factor. Mario's Time Machine, a history game, educational game. It sucks really bad. I remember buying this because I was thinking like, oh man, look at the art, and this game must be rare, I've never seen this before. No, there's a reason why it doesn't come up. Most people probably threw theirs away. Mega Man X, amazing. Jurassic Park, very disappointing compared to the NES and Game Boy version, but I only bought this game because it was complete in the box. Mortal Kombat 1, not as good as the Sega Genesis version because it's missing blood, and yeah, that's pretty much it. The game wasn't even that good to begin with, so take out the blood and it already becomes worse. Mortal Kombat 2, a much better game, and with the blood, it's good. Like, Mortal Kombat 2 is like the game most people, if they ever want to play retro Mortal Kombat, you can start with Mortal Kombat 2. I guess Mortal Kombat Trilogy would be the best, but like, avoid the first one. I mean, just if you wanted to learn the history of the game, I guess you could start with it, but other than that, it's not that good. Final Fantasy Mystic Quest. This is basically the most hand-holding RPG game you'll ever play. I only bought it because as a kid I used to have it, so thought it would be good to go down memory lane again. Pac-Man 2, The New Adventures. This game's terrible. It's like an interactive cartoon where you like help Pac-Man throughout his life, but it's never really clear what you're supposed to do, and yeah, I gave up with this one. Porky Pig, this game's terrible. Shaq Fu, this game's terrible. SimCity, not that bad. Not that bad. Space Invaders. It's Space Invaders. It's got a 2-player mode, but I don't really ever wanted to play with him. Speedy Gonzales. It's terrible. Mario's Missing, another educational game made by the same stupid company. It's terrible. Okay, what was I saying? Oh yeah, Star Fox. It's outdated considering that Star Fox 64 is a thing, but you know, if you're collecting Super Nintendo games or Nintendo games in general, it's definitely cool to see where Star Fox started. Street Fighter, ridiculously outdated, but you know, it's got nostalgia factor for me. We used to play this with my friend all the time. Super Mario Kart, Super Mario RPG, one of the best games ever made. Super Mario World came with the Super Nintendo that I bought, a little faded on the label. Super Scope 6, I don't know why I bought this one because I have the Super Scope, it's in my closet somewhere, but look at the stickers, like somebody really went to town on this thing, but you know. Super Star Wars, Super Tennis, a game bought out of nostalgic factor, and it's actually not that bad. It's really fun to play with another friend. Terminator 2, the arcade game. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle Tournament Fighters, the only game that I still have from my youth. Like, I used to have a Super Nintendo, we sold it, but I kept this game, and this is literally the only game that lasted all the years, and it's a decent fighter, I guess. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Turtles in Time. The best beat-em-up game I've ever played. I love this game. This game was my childhood, and it's pretty much the reason why I love the Ninja Turtles. You know, I'm not that crazy about the cartoon. The toys were cool as a kid, but like, the video games was the thing. The movies were okay, but this right here, what I hold in my hand, there's a little label right there, but this in my hand, this is the Ninja Turtles to me. Yoshi's Island, good game. Super Metroid, really good game. One of the best Super Nintendo games ever. And Tetris Attack, this is the latest Super Nintendo game I ever bought, like literally years after I had stopped buying games. Yeah, it's one of my favorite games ever. It's better than the original Tetris, and it's not even a Tetris game to begin with. It's based on a Japanese game called Panel de Pon. I don't know how you actually pronounce it, but it's fun. It's fun. I like it. It's very hectic in 2 players. Of course, I can't talk about Super Nintendo games without mentioning the pride and joy of my collection, an original copy of Earthbound, which I overpaid because, you know, these games are getting ridiculously expensive, but it's a game I knew that if I didn't pick up now, it would become expensive someday in the future, so I definitely had to pick one up, and yeah, I love it. It gets to stay separated from the rest of the common games. You know, and while I'm talking about Earthbound, you know, I gotta talk about, you know, the Earthbound amiibos, you know, you got Lucas, you got Ness, you know, other amiibos, I don't know what all that shit is. I don't know. Yeah, amiibos. These are from Japan because Nintendo doesn't want to bring this stuff to us. More Japan exclusive stuff. Look at that. Mother 2. And some Mario Galaxy stuff. Alright, so Sega Genesis. Sonic 2 came with the Genesis that I bought. Yeah, so I didn't really like how the label was ripped up with that one. Comic Zone, this game is only like 3 levels long, but holy crap, it makes up for it how hard it is. This game is so difficult. Monopoly, now it's interesting because I bought this because my original Super Nintendo broke and I really wanted to play Monopoly with my friends, so I actually have 2 versions of Monopoly, and interestingly enough, I have another version of Monopoly on NES. Yeah, I, for some strange reason, have an obsession with collecting Monopoly games for video game consoles. I even have a Game Boy version of Monopoly, which we'll get to later. Yep, here it is, Monopoly on Game Boy. Again, I couldn't explain to you why I have such a fixation on Monopolies. MTV's Beavis and Butthead. This game sucks. Rocket Knight Adventures. This game is really good. It's really fun. Made by Konami back when they were in their prime. Streets of Rage 2, one of my favorite beat-em-ups ever. Tiny Toon Buster's Hidden Treasure. Yes, that's a decent platformer. A Mario kind of rip-off type game. And finally, Sonic and Knuckles. Finally, we have the boxed Genesis games, which have a decent amount. Earthworm Jim, the original Mortal Kombat, Sonic the Hedgehog 1, Sonic the Hedgehog 3, Sonic Spinball, Super Street Fighter 2, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles The Hyperstone Heist, which is pretty much just a Turtles in Time clone, but with different levels, different stuff. It's basically the Genesis's version of it. And Toe Jam and Earl. I thought this was going to be the original, but it was actually the sequel, Panic on Funkotron. This game sucks. Instead of being a clever, innovative game like the first one, it's just another platformer. Alright, so finally we have N64 games, and this one has popped up plenty of times, Mario Party 3. I had to make my own end labels because Nintendo's an idiot. Ocarina of Time, Banjo-Tooie, one of the best 3D platformers ever made. Doom 64, only bought this because I wanted a better game than Doom on Super Nintendo. Star Fox 64, really good one. Star Wars Rogue Squadron, I know it's good, but I never really played this one. This game belongs to my brother, he's the one that was all into it. Star Wars Episode 1 Pod Racer, oh really? NFL Blitz 2001, really good arcade style football game. Donkey Kong 64, Diddy Kong Racing, I actually prefer this game to Mario Kart 64, I don't know, just I like the music. David Wise, he's a beast. Tony Hawk Pro Skater, Super Smash Brothers, Mario Kart 64, Clay Fighter 63 and a third. This game sucks, but I only bought it because of Earthworm Jim. He's in it. 007, The World Is Not Enough. This game sucks. Not GoldenEye. Mortal Kombat Sub-Zero Mythologies. Terrible platformer. Banjo-Kazooie, one of the best platformers of all time. Rampage 2, Universal Tour. It's a good game. Madden 2002, really outdated. Gauntlet Legends, really fun if you're playing with friends. Resident Evil 2, an impressive port of the PS1 game, but just not quite up to snuff. Perfect Dark, another classic rare shooter. And finally, I'll just get these out of the way quickly. Mission Impossible, terrible game. F-Zero X, a really good racing game for the N64, but, you know, it's kind of obsolete now that F-Zero GX is a thing. Namco Museum, compilation of Namco arcade games. And finally, Rampage World Tour, the N64 game that will take you about 3 hours to beat. Alright, so I'm getting pretty tired, so I'm gonna go quickly for these. These are the GameCube games, Donkey Konga, Mario Sunshine, you know, this kind of stuff doesn't interest me that much. Like, I stopped collecting after N64. In fact, I don't even collect N64 games. But yeah, nothing that impressive here. I don't collect, you know, GameCube games, I don't collect PS2 games. Like, I hardly even collect PS1 games. Super Smash Bros. Melee. And then we got the Game Boy games, which I wouldn't want to go buy individually because it could take forever. You know, Game Watch Gallery 2, Donkey Kong Land, Donkey Kong, Pokemon Puzzle Challenge. This is basically just a Tetris Attack clone. Dr. Mario Game Boy, Tetris, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Fall of Foot Clan, really terrible game. DuckTales 2, the NES version is really hard to find. Castlevania Adventure, Metroid 2, Super Mario Land 2, Mega Man, The New Adventures? I don't know, Wily's Revenge, I don't know. Voxel, a terrible puzzle game. I mean, it's not terrible, I just suck at it. I'm an idiot, and I blame the game. Donkey Kong Land 2, Battletoads for Game Boy, which is not like the NES game. This is actually a original Battletoads game. They just reused the title cover thing. Kid Icarus of Myths and Monsters, really fun game. Street Fighter 2, a really terrible port of Street Fighter. There's like lag. Kirby's Dream Land, really fun game. Space Invaders, Game Watch Gallery 1, I don't know why I bought this one, it's all chewed up. Kirby's Pinball Land, really hard, but it's enjoyable. Dragon Warrior 3, Earthworm Jim 2, Menace of the Galaxy, this game is terrible. Rampage World Tour, the Game Boy Color port, I don't know why I bought this, I was like obsessed with Rampage at one point in my life, it's a terrible game. Wario Land 2, one of my favorite Game Boy games ever, and one of my first. Wario Land 1, not as good as the rest, I think this is probably my least favorite Wario Land game. Pac-Man for the Game Boy also includes Pack Attack, Oracle of Ages, Zelda, Pokemon Trading Card Game, Wario Land 3, better than Wario Land 2, Donkey Kong Country, really good port of the Super Nintendo game, even though some people disagree. Dragon Tales, this game is my cousin's, and no, I'm not just saying that just to cover up my embarrassment of having Dragon Tales in my collection. I borrowed this from my cousin to prank my brother because there's this really annoying song, and I kind of just forgot to give it back, and he doesn't really care, he's like in college now, so... Super Mario Bros. Deluxe comes with Super Mario Bros. 1 and 2, the Japanese version, the Lost Levels, I should say. Metal Gear Solid, a really good original game for the Game Boy Color. The Lone Returns, it's a bad game, but I enjoy it. Finally, we got the Game Boy Advance game, Sonic Advance, and one more Game Boy Color game, Mario Golf. And this is my cousin's, Powerpuff Girls Bad Mojo Jojo. That should be all the Game Boy. Up and up, there's Zelda. Link's Awakening DX, Metroid Zero Mission, Super Mario Bros. 3, has Zero GP Legend, this game sucks. Metroid Fusion, really good game. Warrior Inc., really good game. Sonic Advance 2, good. The Minish Cap, Zelda, Rampage Puzzle Attacks. Yeah, I told you I was obsessed with Rampage for a while. Zelda 4 Swords and Link to the Past. Pokemon Ruby Edition, Namco Museum, Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo for the Game Boy Advance. Not a bad port. Wario Land 4, really good game. Pac-Man Collection. Dragon Ball Z Legacy of Goku 2, F-Zero Maximum Velocity, Super Mario Advance, Super Mario World 2, Yoshi's Island, Mario Kart Super Circuit, From Jim, a terrible port of the Super Nintendo game, Banjo Pilot. This was originally supposed to be Diddy Kong Pilot, or Donkey Kong Pilot. Yeah, I think it was Donkey Kong Pilot, but they just gave it a Banjo-Kazooie reskin. Banjo-Kazooie, Grunty's Revenge, terrible. It's a terrible game. I'm not gonna try to sugarcoat it. This was the decline of Rare. And the classic NES series games, Mario Brothers, Ice Climbers, Castlevania, Adventure of Link, Legend of Zelda, Mario Pinball Land, one of the worst Game Boy games I have ever played. Like, this was my #1 disappointment in my #1 disappointment video games, or yeah, disappointing moments in video games. I suggest you check it out. Bionicle, one of the first Game Boy Advance games I ever bought, and more on nostalgic value, it's good. Donkey Kong, Pac-Man, and finally, a Japanese version of a Yu-Gi-Oh! World tournament thing, and Bionicle. And recently I actually bought this for a video I'm planning on doing with a friend in the summer. We're compiling Power Ranger games, so I don't really consider this part of my collection because who knows what I'll end up doing with it, but it's here. Alright, so finally we have some games that don't fit in the folder. Warrior Twisted. This game's fun because, like, the mini games, you have to, like, twist your Game Boy, flip it upside down, and this big bulky thing, you know, measures it. Plastic cases. 2 copies of Star Wars Episode 1 Racer for the Game Boy Color. I don't know. These things, they kind of just happen. And talking about, you know, these things just happening, here we got a Yu-Gi-Oh! The Worldwide Edition, but the American version. These things, they just come into my collection, I don't know. Game Boy Camera. This thing's pretty awesome. You can take pictures of the Game Boy. Quality looks terrible. The e-reader. This was the original classic NES series because you could buy the NES games for card form, and they were pretty cheap. This thing was pretty much a flop. Pokemon Pinball, a really good game. Some Game Gear games, Streets of Rage, Pac-Man, Sonic Chaos, what's this, Sonic 2, Sonic 1, I actually really like this one. I think I might like this game better than the Genesis version. Some Pokemon games, I keep these separated because, I don't know why, I think there was a period when I was trying to, I don't know. This, I know I keep this in the plastic because I don't want it to get dusty, because this one has all 150 Pokemon. I want to keep it in as good a condition as possible. Mortal Kombat 2, a port of the arcade game, but for the Game Gear, Power Rangers, a friend gave this to me a while ago. The wireless adapter, so you wouldn't have to use a link cable for your Game Boy Advance, you could just use this wireless thing. Now, I never saw this thing catch on. Yu-Gi-Oh! Dungeon Masters? No, Dungeon Monsters. Yeah, it's an okay game, I guess. See, a lot of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Games I didn't even buy. Like, these were either given to me or forgotten by my brothers. Sonic Chaos, Sonic Triple Trouble, and the Virtual Boy games. Yay! You got Mario Tennis, Riddle Arm, and Telero Boxer. Finally, inside the Virtual Boy itself is Wario Land, which is one of the best Wario Land games ever made. Unfortunately, it's on Virtual Boy, but despite the fact I do like the Virtual Boy, I think it's a good system. Not that great because of the lack of games, but the system itself, the concept, it's fine. I don't get headaches from it. I think it's okay. It's a disappointing. 3DS definitely was what the Virtual Boy, you know, could have showed off. You know, fun games with 3D effects. And back there is a Nintendo collector pin set. It's a kind of, you got Luigi's feet right there. You got Mario 2 pins. Mario on a skateboard. Yeah, that's fucking weird. Peach hidden back there. You know, her Earthworm Jim action figure. I don't know what the fuck all that shit is. Yeah, fucking shit everywhere. Then the Wii games. Same with the GameCube stuff. You know, it's like I'm not gonna go through each and every individual one. You know, you got the DS games and the 3DS games, which are mostly compiled of ports or remakes or stuff like that. You know, some Nintendo stuff. You know, you got your glassware, your mugs, and your stuff like that. It's cool. It's cool. You got Donkey Kong Jenga, Earthworm Jim on PC, the Super Scope up there, some Amiibo boxes, which I like to save stuff. One NES, another NES. You know, Wii, mess, Super Nintendo stuff, junk. You got a Mario phone back there, the Mario Cap, Legend of Zelda Monopoly, power pad, some Nintendo pins. You know, you got Ninja Turtle glass, you know, some DVD, some PS1 games, you know, I don't know what the, you know, more DVDs, you got the PS1 games, you know, some more DVDs, you got some musical CDs, you got arcade sticks for the Sega Genesis and for the Super Nintendo, the Sega Genesis, did I say Super Nintendo? I meant Nintendo, I don't know, and CDs and some PS1 games. Yeah, Resident Evil, Mortal Kombat Trilogy, Resident Evil 2, Twisted Metal, Twisted Metal, Twisted Metal. There's like 4 of them, I think. Metal Gear Solid, you know, music. And here we have the first issue of Nintendo Power, all nice and framed. I don't know why Mario's blue, and I don't know why he's holding a carrot. As far as I know, I don't think there's carrots in Mario 2. I know there's turnips, but a carrot? Maybe, I don't know. I haven't played that game in a long time. That's the retro game collection. I have a lot of other stuff that I didn't show off, you know, game boxes, game manuals. Yeah, I've collected a bunch of that stuff over the years, video game memorabilia, but I should make that for another video because this video is probably already long as heck as it is. I'm going to try to cut it down for size, add some time marks so that you don't have to sit through the stuff that you don't want. A little Super Mario Maker snow globe, DS, you know, stuff. There's just a lot of stuff like Digivice, DS, all this Nintendo stuff collected over the years. This is what I've surrounded me with. This will be my grave. You know, Donkey Bongos. Who doesn't want to play Donkey Konga? That game sucks. The Street Fighter power pad, fight pad, whatever. Nintendo is everywhere. You know, it's Pac-Man. Who doesn't like Pac-Man? You like Pac-Man? I like Pac-Man. Pac-Man.